Hello and welcome. This is part 3 of 4, where I'm going to be continuing my analysis of the mathematically perfect face. So in part 1, I said that this face is perfectly attractive, for which there are a total of 55 features that make it up. And in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the eyes, for which there are a total of 11 features, and the eyebrows, for which there are a further 5 features. And just a quick warning before we start, you're in for some big bombshells for today. Consider yourself lucky if you manage to get through the whole video all in one take. So let's get this started. The first feature to look for is the height to width ratio of the eye. So your eyes should be more horizontally wide than they are vertically tall. And an ideal ratio is roughly 1 to 3, so your eyes are 3 times wider than they are tall. And that will give that piercing, dominant eye contact that we hear so much about. Because a set of eyes that are vertically higher than that, in this case we have a ratio of 1 to 2, is going to make the eyes appear vulnerable. And almost a bit surprised as well. You're going to walk around with this constant shocked look on your face. And lastly, it also gives a juvenile appearance, so you'll often see younger people have big, round, wide eyes, which isn't going to be masculine at all. And I've given this an importance level of 4, so it's definitely something to look out for. It is really important. And if you're not 100% sure on what the importance ratings mean out of 5, then there is a brief explanation in the description below. Or if you want a more in-depth explanation, then check out part 1, there is a more in-depth explanation. Moving on to feature number 2, eye shape, and this is an importance of 5, it is very crucial. And I like to use this term, almond shaped eyes. So on both the top and bottom eyelid, the eye should be a flattened curve. And again, this adds to that piercing look. And the end result is going to be this almond shaped eye. So if we contrast it to these eyes, which will have a curved lower eyelid, it's going to look vulnerable, it's going to look tired, droopy, saggy, it's not going to be attractive. And same goes for these eyes with a curved upper eyelid. It's going to look tired, unalert, disinterested, and it's not going to be attractive either. And I like to use this term prey eyes. So both of these sets of eyes would be considered prey eyes. And what I mean by this is that when you look at nature, you will often see 2 sets of eyes. So the predators or hunters will have these deep set, piercing, menacing, dominant eyes with the classic almond shape. Meanwhile, prey eyes will have these large, rounded, bulging eyes, and that's going to convey ideas of vulnerability, helplessness, defenselessness. And this is actually beneficial for prey because it gives them a large field of vision to spot potential predators that are trying to attack them. However, from an attractiveness point of view, these eyes are always going to be perceived as more unattractive compared to these masculine dominant eyes. Moving on to feature number 3, eye spacing. And obviously this is going to be the distance between the 2 inner portions of the eyes. And the ideal eye spacing should be roughly 1 breadth apart from each other, so 1 eye's breadth apart. So if we compare it to this man's eyes, who clearly has wide set eyes, then that is going to give that innocent and juvenile appearance, like you'll often see in cartoons, Disney films, that the characters will be animated with overly wide set and bulging eyes. And that can be helpful in a way that it makes you look more trustworthy and innocent. But from a attractiveness and masculinity perspective, these eyes aren't very seductive at all. Moving on to the other side of the spectrum, if we look at this man who has closer eyes, these are even worse because they give you an inbred look. And for this reason, I'm giving this an importance level of 4. And if you haven't realised already, nearly all of these features that make up the eyes are going to be highly rated. Lots of 4s and 5s. As I said at the start, big bombshells in this video. And that's why you so often hear the phrase, your eyes either make or break your face. So moving over to feature number 4, eye deep setness. So your eyes should be set deeply within your skull, as opposed to this man's eyes who are protruding from his face. And if we move over to the side view, it's a little easier to see. So this man's eyes are set deeply within his skull, which gives good overall protection and support around the eye. And if we took a look at this man, he actually had surgery to bring his eyes backwards into his skull. And in the before photo, his eyes are going to look more protruding and buggish in a way, which is going to be unattractive. Meanwhile, in the after photo, he loses that bug appearance. And I've given this an importance level of 4. And again, it goes back to those same ideas that we said about at the start, that hunters or predators are going to have these deep set, intimidating eyes. Meanwhile, prey are going to have these bulging, round, circular eyes, which aren't going to be masculine and aren't going to be attractive. Moving on to feature number 5. Attractive eyes should have compact eye orbits. So the eye orbits is the bone within the skull that supports the eye. And this is important because as people age, their facial bones deteriorate in various places. So their jaw and cheekbones might become more recessed, their nasal cavity will expand, And one other area that also deteriorates is your eye orbits. So having rigid, compact and supportive eye orbits is going to be important because it's going to be indicative of those youth and health indicators, which are obviously going to convey high fertility. And I've given this an importance of 4. So if we compare it to these two sets of eyes, these are bad eye orbits and they have that teardrop shape. And it's going to make them look tired, unalert, sad, etc. So it's not going to be as attractive as these compact, dominant and high alert eyes. Moving on to feature number 6, and well done to those who waited patiently for this one. We all knew it was coming. Big bombshell, Canthil tilt. So this measures how level your eyes are to the horizontal plane, and the ideal Canthil tilt should be neutral. However, it's worth noting that positive Canthil tilt, eyes that slope downwards, is also ideal and is going to be considered universally attractive. However, moving on to the last type of tilt, the dreaded negative Canthil tilt. And I don't even need to describe why these eyes are unattractive. I mean, it's staring right in front of you. There are so many problems here. It's going to give a preyish appearance. It's going to make him look constantly worried, tired, scared, frightened. There's so many negative emotions being connotated with these eyes. It is not attractive and it is not masculine at all. It is not seductive in any way, shape or form. And for that reason, it is going to be given an importance of 5. No doubt. It's not even a question. Having negative Canthil tilt makes hunter eyes impossible. And in fact, what you'll see from all of these ratings is that any feature that makes hunter eyes impossible is automatically going to be given an importance level of 5. And just to iterate my point even further of just how devastating negative Canthil tilt is, if we take a look at these two examples. So in this first set of eyes, overall you're thinking it's quite good, like he ticks a lot of these boxes, but because he has that dreaded negative Canthil tilt, it just completely breaks his eyes up. And it ruins his chances of having those highly sought after hunter eyes. And I like this example even better. So if we look at this man's face, based on first impressions, you're thinking, nice jawline, nice mid-face, good bone structure, he's probably quite attractive, easily a high 6, pushing 7, I think a lot of people would even say he's a Chad Light. However, once you reveal his eyes, he loses 2 to 3 points instantly. And this is what people mean when they say that the eyes either make or break your face. And again, what's the cause? No surprise, negative Canthil tilt. Big bombshell, very important feature. You cannot sleep on negative Canthil tilt, it is so important. And now I've got 6 of the features out the way, I want to go over a disclaimer quickly. So when I'm talking about these attractive features, none of them actually need a reason to be attractive. And though a lot of them do, for example, when I spoke about eye orbits, I mentioned how compact eye orbits are going to be indicative of youth, health, which from an evolutionary perspective is going to be beneficial in terms of selecting compatible mates. However, other features, such as Canthil tilt, might not have an evolutionary reason for why they are attractive. They are just attractive for the sake of it. Or the other possibility is that there is a reason why negative Canthil tilt is unattractive, but we just haven't discovered it yet. And just to emphasise my point, when you look at nature, take exotic birds for example, many of these have exuberant and impressive displays of feathers, beaks, or other features that mates would look for and would find attractive. And from a survival perspective, there is no benefit producing these impressive displays. In fact, if anything, it's actually detrimental to the animal's survival, because it's wasting huge amounts of resources and energy into producing these feathers, which could have been spent on increasing the animal's chance of survival. So these features could actually be considered detrimental. So I just wanted to clear that up quickly. Anyway, back on with the analysis. Feature number 7, a downward pointing medial canthus. And this is when the inner part of the eye points downwards. And I'm not going to say too much on this because it only has an importance level of 2. And just to showcase this even more, this man does have that desirable downward pointing medial canthus. But these eyes are still well below average, despite having this little bonus. So having a downward pointing medial canthus isn't really going to do that much to improve your looks. Feature number 8, upper eyelid exposure. And this is crucial that it's kept to a minimal. It's got an importance level of 5. So if we compare it to this man here, who has a significant amount of upper eyelid exposure, it doesn't look dominant or intimidating at all, and it adds to that tired appearance. And again, it's got an importance level of 5, because as stated earlier, any feature that makes it impossible to have hunter eyes, such as upper eyelid exposure, is automatically going to be given an importance level of 5. And if we take a look at this man, who I would consider very below average, he has a ridiculous amount of upper eyelid exposure, on top of other flaws such as negative Canthil tilt, so these eyes are very unattractive. However, it's worth noting that although minimal upper eyelid exposure is ideal, it is also attractive if there is no upper eyelid exposure, so when the brow ridge completely overshadows the eye. This is also attractive and is often referred to as hooded. Moving on to feature number 9, Scleral Show. So the sclera is the white bit surrounding the eye, and there should be no scleral show beneath the eye, as this is going to make you look tired, unenthusiastic, disinterested, etc. And if we take a look at this man who actually had corrective surgery to remove his scleral show, it makes him a little bit more attractive. Obviously it's not going to make a huge difference, hence it's only got an importance level of 3, however it still helps a little bit. Moving on to feature number 10, a clear white sclera. So the sclera, which I've already talked about, should be white, so it should not appear bloodshot or discoloured as seen in these two examples here, as again these are just fundamental indicators of health, and poor health is not going to be attractive. Feature number 11, eye colour. And the way I see this, rather the case of one eye colour being more attractive than the next eye colour, it's more of a case of the eye colour being vibrant and consistently coloured, so it's bright, it's healthy, it's indicative of high fertility, as opposed to these eyes which appear dull and lifeless in their colour. Or this one which has an inconsistent colour, so it starts off blue on the outside and goes brown on the inside, and that's going to be indicative of poor health. So for those reasons, I think it's more of a matter of the eye colour being vibrant, healthy looking, rather than being a specific colour. Although there are some studies out there which prioritise some eye colours over other ones, they're not really that convincing or conclusive, and besides that, it only has an importance level of 2, it's not really that important anyway. So those are the first 11 features that make up the perfect eyes. Now moving on to the eyebrows. And if you're enjoying the video so far, now is a good time to press the like button and leave any thoughts you have in the comment section below. Feature number 1, the eyebrows should be dark and wholesome in appearance. And when I'm talking about the eyebrows being wholesome and thick, I'm not just talking about the eyebrows being thick in terms of vertical height, I'm also talking about a high density of fibres. So if we compare it to this man here, who has very thin strands, so his eyebrow fibres are very sparse and they aren't very visible at all. And this isn't going to be very masculine, and it's also indicative of old age and potential poor health. Likewise, if we take a look at this man who has both light and thin eyebrows, these aren't going to be attractive either, and I've given this an importance level of 3. Feature number 2, the eyebrow should be a flattened curve, as opposed to these N-shaped eyebrows, which is going to convey those ideas of being frightened and vulnerable, and it almost makes you look permanently surprised and in shock, so it's not going to be very attractive. And you'd be surprised of how much of a difference some of these features when it comes to the eyebrows make, so I've still given it an importance level of 3. That said, it's also worthy to note that near perfectly straight eyebrows, such as this man's, are also very attractive, so either a flattened curve or perfectly straight. But as long as they're not these curved N-shaped eyebrows, then you should be fine. Moving on to feature number 3, eyebrow tilt. And again, this should be either neutral or positive, so the eyebrows tilt inwards towards the face, as opposed to this man who has the dreaded negative tilt, which again is going to carry a lot of those same emotions as negative canthil tilt of the eyes does, of being worried, frightened, scared. It's not going to be very masculine and it's going to be unattractive. And in my opinion, this actually carries a lot of weight. I've given it an importance level of 4, so it's definitely something to make note of. Now, I'm no expert in Photoshop, but if we take this man for example, who clearly has negative eyebrow tilt, I believe that if he had either neutral or positive tilt of the eyebrows, then that would significantly boost his attractiveness. So if anyone's watching this video and would like to send me an edited version of this photo with neutral or positive tilt, then you can send me an email which can be found on the About page of my channel. And I believe this could make a significant difference in his attractiveness. Moving on to feature number 4, a small eyebrow to eye distance. So the distance between the eye and the eyebrow should be kept to a minimal, as it's going to look more masculine, dominant, confident, etc. Meanwhile, these eyes, which have a large distance between the eyes and the eyebrows, is going to convey those same ideas that we've already spoken about being surprised, frightened, intimidated, etc. It's not going to be very attractive at all, and I've given this an importance level of 3. And finally, moving on to feature number 5, the brow ridge should be prominent, so it should overshadow the eyes being pushed forward and then curve back inwards where it meets the nasal bridge, compared to this man whose brow ridge is relatively flat and points downwards. However, it only carries an importance of 2, like these eyes are still very attractive, despite having this flaw of a not very prominent brow ridge. So, those are the 16 features with their importance ratings that make up the perfect eyes. In part 4, we're going to be looking at the 20 features that make up the perfect hair, health and skull shape. So press the subscribe button with the notification bell, so as soon as part 4 comes out, you'll get a notification straight to your phone. And if you enjoyed this video, press the like button and leave a comment as it helps the YouTube algorithm.